Hi, Lit in Comp 1. Today's video is going to go over diction and syntax. So today is Wednesday the 6th. We're on a shortened early release schedule, but you guys still have a nice chunk of time you can work on working and adding to your narrative, but also revising the memoir for good syntax and diction. I'd also issue the challenge that maybe you talk to a shoulder buddy or a table mate and switch narratives or memoirs and maybe read and see what grammar devices they think can be added, or maybe what typos you have. We tend to autocorrect when we read, so especially when it's on a computer. And then maybe there's just some word choicing they think is repetitive, or maybe could just be jazzed up a little bit more. So remember, word choicing and diction are super important. They're also imagery tools. I'll talk about that in a minute. Grammar and syntax, or your sentence structure, has been a big focal point for the last few weeks before break, so I want you to play that as well. So I took a couple of sample sentences out of my memoir about the house down the end of the road. It was about me breaking that little glass thingamajig with the birds on it. So I wanted to kind of celebrate out what diction I chose and also what syntax. So this first sentence is one full sentence, but it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 grammar devices in it. So this is like super grammar to the 4th power. If you want to try something like this, you can. You just got to make sure you punctuate it properly. So if you notice, I have 2 sentences coming together, so I semicoloned it here. As is in a wubbies, and then I interrupted my wubbies with a little description of me being a small kid, and then I added a fanboys, and I basically offered a whole bunch of complex grammar devices when I was talking about this house. So this is my opening sentence, and it's super dramatic too. It's like over the top long, and it has some really over the top vocab as well. Enigma is mystery or a puzzle, and I wanted, initially the line read, the house was a mystery. But I was like, that's not a great opening line. I want to jazz it up. So I used enigma because it's a cool word. That was courtesy of thesaurus.com. And then I use glittering because it actually is an imagery word. And I'll talk about show versus tell in just a second. Over here, I also issue the advice to make sure you balance kind of easygoing diction, beautiful, orange and yellow, with more complicated diction, because you don't want to sound like a snob. You don't want your entire paper to read so diction heavy. First is, it's hard for your reader to understand, and second, it just becomes a little bit too much or over the top. So I play with avian and glints, and violet is a little bit more of a cool vocab word as opposed to purple. But I wanted to balance it out with some more casual language. I definitely tried my grammar again, and then when I went with my diction, I looked at lit devices. So I looked at, hey, I could make this use personification. I could also play with alliteration. So I chose soundless, slowly, space. And I wanted to play that up, and even the word dance with that sound at the end, I was kind of playing with my diction a little bit and mixing it with lit devices. So fun fact, I also use this word colossus. I used it because it is connected to a huge statue thing that was part of an ancient Greek society. I don't know, I can't remember what the society was. It's since gone. It was one of the original 7 wonders of the world. But as I was trying to Google pictures of Colossus, apparently this character from Deadpool is also Colossus, so that's just a fun fact for you. Show versus tell. Diction and grammar can help pace out a story, and it can help give good feels and tone to the reading and what you're trying to describe. We've definitely seen this with Elie Wiesel when he was writing about all the edicts that were taking place in chapter 1, like when the Nazis came in. It started to read really fast, and it was broken up really fast. So grammar can help with that. And that's another reason why. If you want to really show drama, then maybe you use short, punchy sentences. If you're trying to slow the passage down, you'll do longer sentences. Imagery is also a huge part of diction. It's part of the visualization and understanding its details, which is part of the rubric. So pretend that you need to talk about spring. I want you to show me what spring is in your story, not tell me. So, it was spring. Okay, now first is, that sentence is very basic in general, but spring can look like a lot of different things, especially in Michigan. Spring can be muddy and nasty, but spring can also be pretty like it is today. Today was about 70 degrees. So look how I did this. I could see little bursts of color by my feet, and the sun warmed my face. Dash, it was finally spring. So that has way more feels, and I can get a sense of what's going on. Please show me parts of the narrative, don't just tell me. But, big old asterisk here, sometimes you do just have to tell. Like, I don't need you to give me imagery and over-the-top description of every single thing in your story. That leads to bed writing. And also, maybe you just need to establish it was spring so you can do more showing of the football field and what that was like, because that is more the details that you want to celebrate and share out. I hope that makes sense. So grammar can help with the feels in reading and the pacing of a passage. Imagery is part of diction. Keywords can help with visualization. Those are your imagery words, just like glittering was a minute ago. All right, because glittering is just one word. I didn't have to add a whole description necessarily. Grammar devices, this is new. So when you guys work on your narrative or memoir, I keep saying narrative, but memoir and narrative are kind of synonymous. When you guys work on your story today, you need to start highlighting your grammar devices. You're not highlighting every single grammar device, but you are going to highlight some of your favorite. And I also want to articulate that grammar devices can, in syntax, can also be connected to voice elements, like parentheses or italics and thoughts. So here's a very short, easygoing grammar sentence. I'm pretending like I'm writing a memoir about our first dog. He passed away in the, like right as school started. We were about to get a new puppy, so that is exciting, but I still miss and think about my dog constantly because he was a big part of our lives. So his name was Edgar. I can still remember his warm brown face, semicolon. He was our dog, dash, our first fur baby. And so what I've done is I've tried a couple different grammar devices here. I don't think it's super complicated like it was in the previous examples, but it allows me to kind of make some bold statements. I tried to do a little bit of diction imagery here with warm, and then first fur baby is actually not a thesaurus word or even over-the-top diction. It's just kind of a casual terminology I use, a lot of married couples use when they get their first dog before they have kids. So this one is a little bit longer, but you can see the grammar as it starts to pop in. You can also see some other syntax devices and word choicing that's kind of thoughtful. Since the wallpaper screamed pastel madness at me, comma, I took matters into my own hands. I got to work. My husband was working a third shift, comma, so I was safe to do what I needed to do. I found a scraper, a sponge, and some type of wallpaper removing soap. What in the world? My husband gawked at the wall the next morning. I had conquered half of the room from the baseboards to the ceiling, and yes, there was wallpaper on the ceiling. Semicolon, my work was almost complete. Ah, I thought, no more pastel flowers. So hopefully this gives you some inspiration of some different syntax devices. So you can, kind of compare notes with your table mate people here. But parentheses are always super fun to break up sentence structure and kind of create a new kind of pacing of the sentence structure. If you ever have internal thoughts, like I thought to myself, oh my God, it's a spider, it's horrible. If you're actually really thinking it in the narrative, you can put it in italics, and that would be internal thoughts, all right? But just be careful you don't italics everything, because, yeah, you might be thinking out and reflecting in the narrative and the memoir, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's actually an internal monologue where you're talking to yourself. So that was fun. I don't have a ton of over-the-top diction in here either, but I have a couple nice ones, like gawked, and then I tried to play up some of those lit devices we've talked about a while ago, like the wallpaper screamed at me, and then I conquered half of the room, like this was a great, situation. We bought an old Victorian house, so this is me reflecting on the renovation process that we created. So that's all I got for you guys in syntax and diction. So I look forward to seeing these memoirs. We're about halfway through the sub week, and I will be back on Monday. But I am excited to see what you guys are producing. So keep typing, keep drafting, keep peer reviewing, keep revising. All right? Syntax and diction.